Let's transition to the NFC Championship as the San Francisco 49ers beat the Detroit Lions 34-31. For the Lions, Jared Goff actually played well. He went 25 of 41. He threw for 273 passing yards, 1 touchdown. For the 49ers, Brock Purdy, he went 20 of 31. He threw for 267 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Lions head coach Dan Campbell was criticized for passing up on multiple field goal opportunities for the Lions. He discussed that after the game. Take a listen.
Here he is.
I just felt really good about us converting and getting our momentum and not letting them play long ball. They were bleeding the clock out. That's what they do. And I wanted to get the upper hand back, and it's easy hindsight, and I get it, I get that. But I don't regret those decisions, and that's hard. It's hard because, we didn't come through. It wasn't able to work out, but I don't. And I understand the scrutiny I'll get. That's part of the gig, man. But, we just didn't work out.
That was Dan Campbell after the Lions suffered a 34-31 loss in the NFC Championship game. So, for me, as I watched the NFC Championship game Sunday evening and I saw what happened, to me, Dan Campbell is the biggest reason why the Detroit Lions are not playing in their first ever Super Bowl in their franchise history. And I have supported Dan Campbell all season long, and I feel like he changed the culture in Detroit. And moving forward, the Detroit Lions will be a contender in the NFC North and a contender in the NFC. And that's mostly because of Dan Campbell. And Dan Campbell did a tremendous job leading this Detroit Lions football team to an NFC North title and the number 3 seed in the NFC this year. But Dan Campbell and his terrible decision-making as the Lions head coach in the NFC Championship game is something that I cannot let slide. And I'm looking at Dan Campbell this year. This is the Lions on 4th and 3 or less across the 50-yard line entering Sunday. The Lions had 20 attempts. That's the most in the NFL. But they also had 17 conversions. That's also the most in the NFL. So they went for it on 4th and 3 or less across the 50-yard line 20 times this year. They converted on 17 of those 20 tries, which is 85%. That's the second best in the NFL. But in this moment, I'm looking at the moments in the NFC Championship game, right? And it happened twice. So when the Lions were up 24-10, it's 7 minutes left to go in the third quarter. You had dominated the 49ers up to that point. It's 24-10, and the Lions were significantly outplaying the 49ers. And remember, coming into this game, the Lions, they were 7.5-point underdogs. And so they had outplayed the 49ers. Let's talk about the numbers real quick. Before I get to that moment, looking at the numbers in the first half, the Lions, they had 280 total yards. The 49ers had 131 total yards. The Lions were averaging 7 yards per rush. The 49ers were averaging 2.9 yards per rush. On 3rd and 10 or more, the Lions were 3 and 4. They went 3 for 4. The 49ers were 0 of 3. And the Lions were up 24-7 at the half. So the 49ers, they get the ball to start the half. They get a field goal. But it was not a touchdown. So it wasn't 24-14. It was 24-10. So I still felt like the Lions had the momentum. And so here's the moment. Lions 24, 49ers 10. 7 minutes left to go in the third. And the Lions are on the 49ers 28-yard line. And to me, considering your team, they are the underdogs. You already have the crowd quiet because you've outplayed the 49ers for majority of the game up until this point. And you want to keep your foot on their necks. And so, to me, with a 14-point lead with 7 minutes left to go in the third quarter on the 49ers 28-yard line, you have a chance to go up 17 and put all the pressure on the 49ers. And the thing is, if the 49ers would have went down by 17, in that moment, they might have panicked because you're down 17 and it's only about 22 minutes left of game time. And the odds of the 49ers being able to come back is dropping by the minute. It's dropping by the minute. And the Lions are close to punching their ticket to the Super Bowl. And he goes for it on 4th and 2. And he passed up on a 46-yard field goal. He passed up on a 46-yard field goal. It wasn't a 56-yard field goal. It was a 46-yard field goal to go up 27-10 and keep the momentum in your favor. And he passes up the opportunity and goes for it on 4th and 2. And I thought the receiver for the Lions, Reynolds, he should have caught the pass by Jared Goff. I thought Jared Goff threw the football in perfect position for Reynolds to catch the football. He drops the football, right? And so on the ensuing possession, the 49ers, Brock Purdy throws to Brandon Ayuk. It was a play that should have been an interception, honestly. Should have been an interception. But the defender tips the football up. Brandon Ayuk catches ricochet. And the 49ers are in business and threatening to score. And so they score on a key third down. That's another thing people are not remembering in this game. It was a third down when the Niners scored their touchdown. So they get a touchdown, right? So now it's 24-17. And then Jahmyr Gibbs fumbles on the ensuing Lions possession. And now the 49ers are rolling. Now they believe, oh, we have a chance to win this football game. As bad as we have played, we are in this game, and if we get a touchdown, the game is tied. And so now the wheels have fallen off. The 49ers have all the momentum, and everybody knows when it comes to the NFL playoffs, momentum is a real thing. It's a real thing. And the Lions had all the momentum before that mess up by Dan Campbell and not kicking the 46-yard field goal. They had all the momentum. Despite the 49ers scoring on their first possession of the half, the Lions still had the momentum up 14. But now, after Jahmyr Gibbs' fumble, you got Levi Stadium going crazy, and the 49ers feel like we can win this game. Here we go. They get a touchdown, and so the game is tied. And now it's 24-24. And then I think the 49ers, they end up kicking a field goal. And so here's another possession, another bad decision by Dan Campbell. This time, the 49ers, they were winning 27-24. It's over 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And they're on the 49ers 30-yard line, and it's 4th and 3. You have an opportunity to tie the game up, Dan. What are you doing? And at this point, I'm thinking to myself, what the hell is he doing? What are you doing? You tie the game up in that moment. This time, it was a 48-yard field goal that Dan Campbell decided to pass up on. You got to try to tie the game up. Dan, you already made a mistake by giving the 49ers the momentum when you passed up on a 46-yard field goal that would have gave you a 17-point lead. And now here you are again trying to go for it. This time it's a 4th and 3 from the 49ers 30-yard line. What are you doing? What are you doing? I understand he has this philosophy where he's aggressive and he wants to go for it on 4th down. You believe in your players. You believe in what you guys are doing. I get it, Dan. I understand. I get it 100%. But I always say, as an individual, you have to move different once you've accomplished and had success. Like, you can't move the same once you have success in your life. Once you reach a certain level, you got to move different. Like, if I'm gambling and I'm at the casino, if I'm up $10,000 and I came into the casino with $100, then I have to understand I'm not going to put this entire $10,000 back on the table and risk losing it all. I have to move different because I've already won money, and I have to move different moving forward. Same with an individual who has success. When you reach a certain status in life, you got to move different. The same way I was moving when I was broke, I can't move that same way when I'm rich. Otherwise, I'll go back to being broke again. You can't say, oh, because in the regular season, I was going for it on 4th down and I was being aggressive. You can't use that philosophy in the NFC Championship when your team is up 24 to 10. You can't use that same philosophy, Dan. You got to move different. I have a lead. I have an opportunity to get the Lions to their first Super Bowl in franchise history. When you have a lead and you're in an unexpected position and you want to stay there, you got to move different. I didn't expect to go into the casino and win $10,000. So now that I'm up $10,000, I'll be damned if I give all $10,000 back to the casino. I can't move the same way if I'm rich compared to when I was broke. Otherwise, I'm going to put myself in a position to where I'll be broke again. And I thought Dan Campbell, man, he wanted to stick with how he's coached all season long and being aggressive. And you have to change up and adjust as a head coach. And I thought he let his emotions get to him. That's what it is. He let his emotions get to him, and he was thinking like a player instead of thinking like a coach. You got to think like a coach in those moments, Dan. You got to take your emotions out of it. I know you believe in your players. You guys had a great season, 12-5, won the NFC North, made the NFC Championship game, but you have to adjust your way of thinking and adjust to the circumstances. But even with that said, my other question for Dan Campbell, why did the Lions not run the football in the second half? In the first half, on 21 rush attempts, the Lions had 148 rushing yards. In the second half, on 7 rush attempts, the Lions had 34 rushing yards. Why did they go away from the run? Why? That's also where I was confused about as well. Why did the Detroit Lions go away from the running game? You look at the Detroit Lions in the regular season, they were ranked 6th in the NFL with 125 rushing yards per game. You got David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, arguably the best running back duo in the NFL currently. You continue to run the football. Why are you pass happy and having Jared Goff drop back the pass 41 times in a game? And I thought Jared Goff played great, honestly. I thought a lot of these passes that these Lions receivers were dropping, Jared Goff had the passes on the money. They were right on the money. And so I thought the main 2 reasons why the Lions lost this game is because of Dan Campbell's bad decision-making as their head coach and because of their inability to stay consistent with the running game in the second half. You danced with what brought you there. And the running game got you in the position to where you had a 17-point lead. You were up 24-7 at the half. And I'm looking at the Lions numbers, right? In the first half, they had 280 yards. In the second half, they had 162 yards. In the first half, they had 24 points. In the second half, only 7 points. And so I thought that's where they lost the game, not running the football in the second half. Now, with that being said, I have to acknowledge Brock Purdy and the San Francisco 49ers fan base, because I've been critical of Brock Purdy, and I have said time and time again that Brock Purdy is a game manager. And the thing is, I have said that when you look at the 49ers as a team, Brock Purdy is probably their 5th or 6th most valuable player offensively. But Brock Purdy was a game changer Sunday evening in San Francisco. I'm looking at Brock Purdy, and in the first half, he struggled. He was off. He was inaccurate with some of his throws, and he just did not seem in rhythm. He was just off in the first half. It was a completely different story in the second half. I'm looking at his numbers in the first half compared to the second half. And in the first half, he was 7 of 15. In the second half, 13 of 16. In the first half, he had 93 passing yards. In the second half, 174 passing yards. In the first half, he threw an interception. 0 touchdown passes. In the second half, he had 1 touchdown pass, 0 interceptions. In the first half, he had -1 in rushing yards. In the second half, he had 49 rushing yards. And for the game, Brock Purdy, he finished 5 carries for 48 rushing yards. And so Brock Purdy, he was not a game manager. He was a game changer in this 49ers 34-31 win over the Lions. This was a tremendous, tremendous performance from Brock Purdy when his team needed it the most. When it mattered the most, Brock Purdy elevated his game, and he went outside of the Kyle Shanahan scheme, and he made plays. And he did something that he hasn't done since the playoffs started. Like, since the playoffs started, twice I've seen Brock Purdy come back in the second half. And I had my questions about Brock Purdy going into the playoffs. I was thinking, okay, if the 49ers find themselves trailing, can Brock Purdy overcome a deficit in the playoffs and help the 49ers win a football game? He's done it twice. He's done it twice in the last 2 games. And so Brock Purdy is for sure, the franchise quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers moving forward. He's a significant upgrade over Jimmy Garoppolo. And if he wins the Super Bowl here in a few weeks, Brock Purdy will be an undisputed top 10 quarterback in the NFL, in my opinion. He'll be a top 10 quarterback for sure if he wins the Super Bowl in the next 2 weeks. He was tremendous in this game. And this in the second half, this is Brock Purdy. He's the only quarterback to throw for 150 yards or more, rush for 45 yards or more, complete 80% of his passes, average 10 yards per rush, 0 turnovers. No other quarterback in the last 30 years has done that in a single half in the regular season or the postseason. Brock Purdy did something that no other quarterback has done in the last 30 years. Throw for 150 passing yards or more, rush for 45 yards or more, complete 80% of his passes, average 10 yards per rush, and has 0 turnovers. So he was tremendous in this game. Tremendous. And I thought he did a great job against the blitz. He got 14 touchdown passes against the blitz. That's tied for the most in the NFL this year. So he was tremendous in this game. And so, yes, the 49ers defense came alive in the second half, and they held the Lions to only 7 second half points. But this game was won because of Brock Purdy. It was won because of Brock Purdy, and he had a tremendous performance in the NFC Championship game. And shout out to Brock Purdy, and shout out to the San Francisco 49ers. They are representing the NFC in the Super Bowl yet again.